Momentum for the Cardinals after Monday's walk-off? Forget about it. Tuesday at Busch Stadium was a disaster. There's no other way to frame it, so we'll talk about it and where the Cardinals go from here coming up on B-Schaeff Daily. What's going on, everyone, and welcome in to this edition of B-Schaeff Daily. Brenden-Schaeffer with you here, Tuesday evening, April 23rd, 2023. I'm going to say it right off the top. I think sometimes you Cardinal fans are a little too hard on Cardinal manager Oli Marmol. But today, I think you might have a point if you didn't like his reaction to the Cardinals' 14-1 loss at Busch Stadium on Tuesday night. Now, I'm going to say this off the top because I want to be fair. And I hate to do this on a night where I didn't cover the game, but I wasn't at the game tonight, was not at Busch tonight, watched it on television, watched the postgame on television, so I didn't cover it. I didn't get the chance to ask a question, but I am going to end up criticizing anyway because I don't know, man. I think people who listen regularly to this podcast know that I am often in Oli Marmol's corner, understanding of the plight that he faces when the offense simply isn't hitting, or when he just doesn't have the pitching staff to be able to get it done. That was the story of the 2023 Cardinals. And I know that Oli Marmol is a manager that's going to have his guys' backs, but Steven Matz tonight, there's not anything good to say about what happened tonight for Steven Matz. And Zack Thompson was a real struggle as well. Cardinals lose it 14-1 at Busch Stadium. You thought that there might have been a chance for some momentum to carry over from Monday's big win. You had Goldie, you had Gorman, those two guys going yard. It was an opportunity to come out guns blazing on Tuesday, reshape the narrative surrounding this team, take on a lefty who comes in with a ERA in the high sixes, Tommy Henry for Arizona, and have some of your premier right-handed hitters in this lineup do some damage. And not only did the Cardinals not get it done offensively, they score one run. It was an early homer by Wilson Contreras, one of the few Cardinals doing his job offensively. But it was more than that tonight because Steven Matz, the wheels came off plain and simple. It was quite simply a failure of an outing for Steven Matz. And that's not what we heard from Oli Marmol postgame. And I understand that you're going to have your players' backs. But we'll listen to some quotes from Oli Marmol about the Steven Matz outing. You got to say what you got to say. You got to say what you feel compelled to say as a manager. But if that's how we're viewing Steven Matz, we're setting the bar way too low on what a good Steven Matz outing looks like. So we're going to get into that. We're going to talk the struggles for Zack Thompson, and that could mean a demotion to Memphis tomorrow. I would expect it for Zack Thompson after what happened tonight and all the pitches he threw too. It's partially a performance thing, and it's partially you need arms in your bullpen who are fresh, sort of thing. So we'll talk about that. We'll talk about just the general malaise for this Cardinals team. There's got to be some urgency, man. There's got to be a feeling like this isn't acceptable. And I'm not here to tell you that in the clubhouse they think it's great and this is lovely. That's not what I'm saying. But finding a tangible way to change it would be appreciated by Cardinal Nation, I feel like, at this point in time. So this was an ugly one. I'm not going to sugarcoat it for you. This is the kind of game that can happen if this team is serious about getting it going and being contenders this year. And the beauty of this all, I'm going to say some things that are a little demeaning about what the Cardinals did tonight and about where they are at this point in the season. The beauty of this, though, is they're going to have a chance to prove me wrong. I'm not even going to make any bold declarations about where this season is heading, but if we can't be critical on a night like tonight, then I don't really know what we're doing. So I'm gonna be a little critical. I feel like folks are going to enjoy that. It doesn't give me pleasure to do it. I felt really good about what happened on Monday night. Cardinals can feel good about a win, get a couple of their main guys going, see what they can turn in after that, maybe get on a little bit of a roll. That was the idea. This pitcher for Arizona, Tommy Henry, he came in with a 6.7 ERA. This is a lefty that, this Cardinal lineup should be tailor-made to be able to do some damage against. Tommy Henry, I gave him more credit than he probably was due. 26-year-old Tommy Henry came in with a 6.87 ERA. Not sure if I said that right properly to begin. Career 4.84 ERA coming in. 118 strikeouts, 154 innings over the last 3 years, partial seasons with Arizona. The Cardinals needed to take advantage of this guy, and they just flat out did not offensively. So that's frustrating enough. But let's go ahead and jump right into it. Before I do that, make sure to hit the subscribe button in the lower right-hand corner of your screen if you want Cardinals content all season long. And I did roll it out. The subscription service on Spotify allows you to watch these or listen to these podcasts without ads. And there are like 5 ad breaks per episode on Spotify. On YouTube, I don't know how often they throw ads your way, listeners, but if you want to support the show, support the work that I'm doing, it'll go directly to me. But you can pay a small fee to take ads off of your podcast on Spotify. That'll be in the description for this video and all YouTube videos moving forward. It'll be in the link description as well on Spotify if that's something that interests you. It's like $4.99 a month. But that's all I'm going to say about that. Let's go ahead and get into the post-game comments from Oli Marmol. I'm going to play him for you, courtesy of Bally Sports Midwest, because he was asked what he saw from Steven Matz tonight. And I understand where Oli Marmol is coming from, and I do not envy his job right now with the way this team is performing. But I feel like if you're a fan base here in these comments, you're well within your rights to go, man, what the hell? What the hell? So here's Oli Marmol on Steven Matz from Tuesday night, courtesy of Bally Sports.
I actually thought it was one of his better outings, to be quite honest with you. The line doesn't show that, but from a pitch standpoint, Vila was there, walking the 9-hole in that inning that kind of led to some runs. Wasn't ideal, but Walker took a good swing off of him for the most part. I thought he actually did a pretty decent job. Didn't go our way.
Man, Walker took a good swing off of him because Steven Matz left a changeup right over the heart of the damn plate against Christian Walker. And he hit it a long way, which is what you're supposed to do with those pitches. It was interesting to hear afterwards, Steven Matz on that same moment said, you know, location's one thing, but I probably, not only did I not locate that changeup, I probably should have gone with a completely different pitch selection as well. So that was sort of the take from Steven Matz. But it's minimizing it to say he put a good swing on it. And look, I don't do this. You guys know that if you listen to the show, I do not come after Oli Marmol like this because I don't think it's the manager that has a whole hell of a lot to do with what's going on. Now, I do think the manager, though, can set a tone. And it's not necessarily Oli Marmol's style. And I can't say this for sure because I have to acknowledge that I'm not in every or any team meeting for that matter. I'm not in that clubhouse to know how he reacts behind closed doors to moments like this. But it does feel like this is a Cardinal team that could benefit from, even if it's a little showy, just doing something erratic and different if you're the manager. Flip a table over, whatever it is that you do. I don't know if Oli Marmol, young manager, I don't know if he's got, I don't know the way that would be viewed in the clubhouse. I was going to say the cachet. I think Oli does have cachet. But there are certain things that if you imagine them being done by a Whitey Herzog or a Tony La Russa, we think about those guys because their careers have concluded, right? We look at them in retrospective terms as what they did during their careers. And I don't imagine that necessarily those guys would have done in year 2 or 3 of their managerial careers some of the things that they might have been more comfortable doing in years 10 or 15 of those careers. I don't know that to be sure, but it's just a guess. But if you're going to do something, man, now might be the time because I'm a little bit concerned about this Cardinals team and where the sense of urgency is after a night like tonight. Look, the pitching was bad, and so there's not a whole hell of a lot you can do. Zack Thompson gave it up, and I think he'll be in Memphis tomorrow as a result. Like I said, partially performance, partially they're just going to need a fresh arm to backfill in that bullpen behind him. But when the result of the Tommy Henry game, and no offense intended to Tommy Henry, he's a much more accomplished ball player than I'll ever be, but this is the big leagues. The Cardinals needed to get this guy, and they didn't get him. And Steven Matz kind of had a Steven Matz outing. I think it's time to be concerned about Steven Matz as a starter because you're not getting what was prescribed for this rotation, which is to eat innings, and you kind of knew you never were going to get that out of Steven Matz. The ideal version of him is 5 and dive, but effective 5 innings. And for Steven Matz tonight, you heard Oli there. He said it was one of his better outings. I'll find it again and play it again. Oli on Steven Matz again. Let's take a look at this. Now he did say, look, I know it didn't reflect it in the box score, in the line score, whatever he said. So he at least acknowledges that 4 1/3 with 7 earned runs is not good. But The stuff in the velo, I guess, is where he was coming from. I still don't think that's something you can say, even if you think it. I don't know if that's something that makes sense to say right now. And look, tangibly, does it impact things? No. Like the fan base being pissed off at the manager, all he knows the deal. All he knows the gig. It doesn't matter to him personally if the fan base is pissed off at him or something he said. And I think that's right, too, because if you're a manager and you let every little narrative that floats out there on social media or among the fan base or among the chatter, the message boards, whatever the case might be, then you're probably not focusing on the right things in your job. But if the fans are unhappy about this one, I could probably understand why. Let me play this one more time from Oli Marmol and Steven Matz. We'll go through it again.
I actually thought it was one of his better outings, to be quite honest with you. The line doesn't show that, but from a pitch standpoint.
Yeah, the line does not show that. 7 earned runs, 4 1/3 innings, gave up 6 hits, walked 3. The walks will kill you. The walks will absolutely end your life in this business as a pitcher. Steven Matz had some untimely walks in this one, walks that lead to damaging swings, compound those damaging swings. Matz gives up 2 walks there in the 3rd inning to McCarthy and to Ketel Marte. Base hit to Lourdes Gurriel. And then you get the home run by Christian Walker. 3-run shot, it's 4-1, and the D-backs did not look back from there. 2 walks end up coming around to score in that 3rd inning. Just kills you. Just kills you. And if Steven Matz had, again, he tends to start out some of these outings pretty effectively. But when you're putting multiple guys on base and then throwing a pitch like he threw to Christian Walker, come on. I understand what Oli means by it. He's measuring some of the things that are maybe not going to show up in the box score. How's the velo look? How's the stuff look? Whatever else he's measuring. But man, when you look at that game and the first reaction is, well, I thought his stuff was pretty good. That was 84 on a changeup, middle. It couldn't have found more of the middle if it tried. So Walker put a good swing on it. Yeah, he did. He did, because it's the only thing any professional hitter can do at that pitch. More from Oli.
Velo was there, walking the 9-hole in that inning that kind of led to some runs. Wasn't
the walks kill you. The walks absolutely do kill you.
Ideal.
Not ideal.
Walker took a good swing off of him, but for the most part, I thought he actually did a pretty decent job. Didn't go our way.
Walker took a good swing because it was a pitch that cannot happen. Oli goes on to mention, we'll play more of this stuff from Bally Sports because there's more mention of Steven Matz. And not to just beat on Steven Matz because he's not the only Cardinal starter that has struggled. Matz honestly had some decent numbers coming into tonight. But the 7 earned runs over 4 1/3, can't get out of the 5th, burns up your bullpen. Does that sound familiar to anybody? Because that is exactly the recipe that doomed last year's team from a starting pitching standpoint. It is. It is. And Oli Marmol and John Mozeliak and anybody on this Cardinals team can tell us till they're blue in the face why this year's team is different than last year's team. But that recipe is not going to work out. We saw it play out in 2023. It's not unfair criticism. It's not anything that's off the wall. This is just exactly what we saw from this team last year too many times. There have been some starting pitching efforts this year that have been really good. So I do think the percentage has been higher in terms of the quality than it was this point last year. I'd have to go back and look. But you've got a number of these kind of outings from Miles. You've gotten hit and miss from Lance Lynn. I think he had one where he gave up about 5. And for Steven Matz, this is one that it's not competitive and it doesn't give your team a chance to win the game. So I think, and again, I know I rarely do this because I don't think it's a sustainable thing to do, but I do think the Cardinals could be on the brink a little bit here if they don't find a way to right the ship soon. You cannot get back into the lull that you were in last year and expect things to turn out differently, because people had more patience over a 6-month season last year. Month 2, month 3, month 4. There was patience for a good long while, and you sold at the deadline, which was the right move for that team. you were asked by the front office to buy in that the tweaks to the pitching staff and running it back with the same offense was going to be enough. Right now, the Cardinals are 10-14. So on behalf of Cardinals fans, like if you're mad, I think you've got the right to be mad after a game like tonight. And they can say till they're blue in the face the effort was good. It's irrelevant. It doesn't matter. And they know that. Like, there's not anything different that I would expect a Paul Goldschmidt to tell you. The effort isn't going to make any difference. The record will be what judges this team at the end of 2024. Last year's team was a bad team. Why? Well, they lost 91 games. Well, they tried hard. That doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. That's a prerequisite to the job. They should be trying hard. And I'm not even trying to look. This sounds really critical. And whoa, what's Brendan doing? He's off the deep end. I'm not even really aiming to be critical. It's just the record and it's the performances. And I feel like it doesn't matter, and it shouldn't matter to Oli Marmol what the fans think. That's fine. He doesn't have to cater to what the public perception is going to be of something. But, and maybe the perception is that Steven Matz is the type of guy that he needs to be able to know that if he happens to stumble upon the postgame from his manager, that his manager said he did a good job. Maybe that's what Matz needs. I don't know. If that's the case, I think you've got bigger problems on your hands. But I also think Oli Marmol can be honest and say, hey, how did Matz look tonight? And you go, well, can't walk two guys ahead of Christian Walker and then feed him an 84-mile-per-hour changeup over the middle. Those are things that cannot happen. And you expect to win a ball game with those things. It won't happen too many times that you get away with that sequence of events and still win a baseball game. Oli chose to say it was one of his better starts outside of a couple things here and there. That's fine. These post games don't matter. They don't matter, but they are a conduit to the fan base. So if you're going to send a message to the fans, you'd send a different one, I think, than the one that was sent tonight. Maybe it's sending a message to the player, and if that's the case, that's perfectly understandable. I'm just here to say what I think of it. And I just don't think it was a great moment. Not going to spend this whole podcast talking about the post game, but I do think there is an element at some point in time where urgency looks like being willing to change up the approach to how this team is talked about or how this team, again, the post games don't matter, but I don't know where else the communication is supposed to happen. When you have a game like last night and the vibes are so good, it's erased. It's completely erased by what happened tonight. That's what's frustrating about it. It's erased and then some because the Cardinals got no hit for 4 innings yesterday. They still found a way to win a game, so the narrative of the game was really positive, and we got a chance to be positive about this team. But tonight, you lose 14-1. It couldn't have been more of an embarrassment at Busch Stadium. It's an embarrassment. At what point is it not an embarrassment to lose 14-1? I don't like to be overly critical. It doesn't bring me pleasure. I'd rather the Cardinals team be a little more competitive in these games. Last night, we were looking for reasons to get them going, get the boys going. This was not good. This was not a good situation. To come off of a really energizing win and to absolutely snuff out every bit of momentum that you could have possibly fathomed. There's not a modicum left of the momentum from Monday. And Goldie said it, hey, this was a great night on Monday. It doesn't guarantee a success moving forward. Well, that was pretty prescient because it sure didn't guarantee him nothing tonight with the way that and Goldie struck out the first 2 times he came to the plate. I think he might have got a hit later on. I don't know. I was kind of checked out. I mean, I wasn't covering this game. And so, I'm going to reiterate that I feel bad that this game happens when I wasn't there because then people can say, well, easy for you to say. You're not there in the building to be able to. And those people are right. That's fine. But I got eyeballs too, and I can use them from home. And I didn't like what I saw, man. And then you can look at the outing for Matz and say there were some good things that happened. He gave up 7. That third inning can't happen with the way that it developed. To walk 2 and then to throw that pitch, you don't have that margin for error. Best pitcher in the game doesn't have that margin for error. So it's not about Steven. It's just about that's not winning baseball. Giving away free passes and then cookies to power hitters is not good baseball. And Matz comes out for the fifth inning. Ketel Marte double. Base hit by Gabriel Moreno. Look, they were getting some soft contact to fall in. There was a couple bloops into center field. I think that might have been the Gurriel one. I can't quite remember looking here through the box score. But, he gave up more contact in the fifth, some hard contact in the fifth, and that set up what happened there. And so he's charged with the runs that he put on base. And then Zack Thompson just flat out didn't have it. I don't even know what to make of what's going on with Thompson. Oli continues to refer to the things that he's been working through, and it's known that he's been working through some things. I think he will probably have to go to AAA to work through whatever it is. Hopefully it's not a health thing, because you don't want to see Zack Thompson have to miss time from something like that. But this workshopping, whatever it is, it doesn't really matter what it is anymore. The results are the results. And he had to eat a lot of innings today when he clearly didn't have his best stuff. I say a lot of innings. I guess I'll check and see actually how many innings he ultimately filled. 2 2/3. 7 hits, 7 runs allowed. 2 homers. Did have 5 Ks, but I mean that's little consolation when he gave up 7. So Nick Robertson, good to see him come in and fill the last couple of innings, I suppose. His Cardinal debut tonight. Let's play more from Oli Marmol. Thoughts on, you'll hear some thoughts on Matz, some thoughts on Thompson. I'll interject as I feel the need to do so, courtesy of Bally Sports.
That changeup has to be in there, right? I mean, it was in the middle of the plate when Walker hit.
That's what he's trying to do with the
Oli says that's what he's trying to do. Talked about the changeup that we talked about with the pitch to Christian Walker. You can go back and find the video on Twitter. It's a cookie. And if you put guys on base ahead of that, it's even more profoundly damaging. So I can't say, yeah, good outing by Steven. I saw some good things. It's got to be, you don't want to rip your guy. The manager's not going to rip his guy, so maybe it's not fair to ask that he would. But I also think there's a point where there's got to be some sense of urgency. Oli Marmol knows Steven Matz better than I do, and so if that's the right way to handle a Steven Matz postgame where he gets shelled, then it is. And I'm understanding of that. I, if anything, try to give context, cover both sides of an issue, of a conversation, of a situation, and I'm not always going to get it right. But the thing that struck me tonight, sitting at home watching, was let's get serious. Now, this wasn't good. We don't need to put lipstick on this one. Going to continue here from Oli Marmol.
What did you take from Zack tonight? He kind of made some steps. The last time I looked at the field, it was a little bit of a bounce back.
Yeah, there's work to be done there. He's battling through what we've talked about now for several weeks of what he's working on and him trying to carry it into the game. Today, a lot of pitches in the heart of the plate, and they got hit. Yeah.
My experience with what Zack is working through has been that it's kind of vague. There's mechanical, there's some stuff going on, the velo. It's not just going to come back overnight. Location on pitches, it just wasn't good. It was rough tonight for Zack. I really like Zack Thompson. He's going to need to probably go back to Memphis and work through some of whatever's going on. And I really hope it's not a health thing. I do hope that it's whatever the reason for sort of the vague explanations about what's going on with him. Hopefully the answer is not he's dealing with an injury, because I hope that's not what it is. I can't say I don't think that's what it is, but you would also think they wouldn't ask him to keep pitching through something if it were anything serious. But nevertheless, that was the outing for Zack. But here's some more from Oli when it comes to he'll be asked again about Steven Matz's outing.
For Steven, I mean, we've seen some encouraging outings from him. The velo was there. What's the ultimate key from
these guys? Are really good against lefties. You look at their numbers; they've done a really nice job against left-handed pitching. He was actually pretty sharp today. He got beat, hands down. Yeah.
I just don't really know what to do with that. Now, Ollie's right about this. Arizona kills lefties. They've got the best OPS in baseball against left-handed pitching this season as of this recording. The problem with that is they absolutely teed off on left-handed pitching today. So I don't know what their numbers were before today, but when you score 14 runs against 2 lefties, I'm going to think that your numbers against lefties for the season are going to take a nice little bump. And that is certainly what happened for the D-backs. 872 OPS after what happened today. I don't know how to go back, and MLB.com doesn't give me that. I'm not able to search, to yesterday's date for team split stats. But if you find a website that can do it, I'd be curious just how much today's game, and I'm not going to go through and do the math. I could do all the math on it, but I won't. They're good against lefties. Ollie's right about that. That's not false. Unfortunately, you might ask, okay, why is the answer Zack Thompson, another lefty, to come in behind Matz? Well, at that point, the game is kind of out of hand, and you go to your long relief guy at that point. They've already been straining to find times to get Thompson into a game, and so that ends up being an obvious spot when it was, whatever it was, 5-1, 6-1 at the time. I don't remember the score when they brought Thompson in. It obviously got much worse from there, but that's the case as it was. It was just his spot, and it's unfortunate because, Arizona does kill lefties. That is very, very true, and even more so the truth after what we saw tonight. But reiterating there that they're great against lefties and Matz was pretty sharp today, he just got beat, is not the direction I would have taken this. I'm not the manager of the team. I never will be. I have high respect for Oli Marmol, and I largely think he does a very good job despite the results that this team has undertaken starting at the beginning of 2023. But that's not a spot where I see eye to eye with the way Oli is talking about Steven Matz's outing. Again, if it just needs to be that way because Oli knows that the way you get the most out of Steven is to just keep in his corner and we've got your back and there's not going to be anything negative said. We're going to put lipstick on the pig in the post game if that's what I have to do as Oli Marmol, because I know that in the long run, whether it looks good publicly or not is irrelevant. If it looks good in my clubhouse, that's the way to do it. That's fine. But us all watching at home, Steven Matz throw that change up to Christian Walker. I get that I keep harping on the one pitch, but I can't give credit to a guy for having been sharp when he walks guys toward the bottom of the order, then walks Ketel Marte, and later in the inning, as he's trying to dance around traffic, that's the pitch, man. 84, heart of the plate. It only gets hit for a home run. It's the same conversation we had about the ball Gorman hit on Monday night. There's nothing else to do with that if you're a professional hitter, especially a guy with some known power to your name. Paul Goldschmidt, similar story with the 92-mile-per-hour fastball that he hit middle of the plate on Monday night. To each their own, but this was a tough one for Steven Matz. And if the bar and the level of expectations is such that after the game you can go, well, the line score didn't look good, but he was sharp. That's a concern to me that even is within the realm of possibility for a Steven Matz outing, because there were folks, I never subscribed to this, but there were folks that would have said Steven Matz is like the number 2 in terms of effectiveness. He may only give you 5 innings, but his effectiveness is more like the number 2 of the rotation. I mentally, when I think about the Cardinal rotation, I go Gray, Lynn, and then you can flip-flop either Matz or Miles Michaelis, and then Gibson as the 5. And as of right now, Michaelis is certainly more like your 5, and Gibson is moving on up in the world despite the ERA being at 5.04. I think if you take out the one inning against Miami, which I know you can't do, but if you did, took out the 6-run inning, he'd be at a sub-3 ERA. So Kyle Gibson's, he has done better than the line score would indicate outside of his one worst inning of the season. So I could extend the same courtesy to Steven Matz and say, look, outside of tonight, his numbers coming in, they weren't so bad. But it's been a trend for Steven Matz now that he's not getting deep into games, which is not entirely a surprise because they brought him along slowly. They had him on a pitch cap to begin the season. Steven Matz went 4 1/3 tonight. I'll give you the rundown for his 5 starts this year. 5 1/3, 5.0, 4 2/3, 5.0, 4 1/3 tonight. So he's got 1 out in the 6th inning on the season. If you look at Lance Lynn, it's a similar story. He had 1 game of going 7. The rest of them has not recorded an out in the 6th. We know what the story's been for Michaelis, who's also kind of not actually eating the innings, right? Like if you look at Michaelis's stats, look at the game logs, he's not giving you, outside of a couple of quality starts, goes 6 innings, 6 2/3, and gave up 2. The other 3, 4 1/3, 4 2/3, 4 2/3. So if this narrative of, and look, I was subscribing to it, of this rotation is doing basically what you asked it to do, you can no longer say that. That's no longer the case. Definitively, that's not a thing anymore. because part of the deal was supposed to be getting through 6 innings with a lot higher frequency. And we're not seeing that right now from the Cardinals outside of Sonny Gray. Outside of their dude he was the ace, and he is an ace. But he's one guy out of 5 days, and that's not going to be enough to get it done. Lance Lynn's pitched well, but he's not been efficient enough, frequently enough, to be that innings eater that was sort of the narrative surrounding bringing him in. And Matz, the ERA coming into today, 3.60. You take that. That's okay. But now this is 2 bad starts in a row for Matz, twice in a row, really, 4 times in a row that he doesn't record even an out in the 6th. This was a brutal one. And it's just one game for Matz, whereas, look, if a guy had a good season going before this game, and now you look at the numbers and it's a bad season because of one game, that tells you that it's still pretty early. But I think it's okay to feel like there should be some urgency to what's going on here. You don't want to overreact to one game, but it's not one game at this point. It's 24. They're 10-14. They're playing kind of mid, and maybe that's a generous way to describe it. I mean, this has a chance to be a mediocre season, and it's weird because when I look at this team, I don't think it's mediocre. I think the lineup has high upside everywhere you look, but if they go another season where they don't produce that way, then there's something different. Like you are what your numbers say you are over a sample size. And Goldschmidt last year, MVP in 2022, 810 OPS last year, that's still pretty darn good. We'll see what it ends up being this year. But more at-bats today that look kind of like the Goldschmidt before he hit the home run yesterday. The one that we've seen for several weeks. He goes 0 for 4, 3 Ks. Yeah, I thought maybe he would have gotten a hit. I guess I missed that. He didn't. Cardinals had 6 hits for the game. Reached base on a walk twice for the game. Arenado left early due to the score. Contreras left early due to the score, but also technically due to injury. Was shaking that left hand. It's the same hand that he's been dealing with. Oli Marmol said after the game, it still does not anticipate needing an IL stint or anything like that for this situation, but certain ways he can get hit or have a swing. It sort of is like a stinger. It's something that he has to kind of shake loose. He came out of the game, probably could have stayed in if it was a close game, but because of the score, it was strictly precautionary. That's from Oli Marmol on Contreras. They certainly can't afford to lose him. He's the only guy that did anything tonight. Hit the home run at the beginning of the game. First run of the game, and it's the only one they scored. It's not good. It's not a good situation. Pitching-wise, was not a good situation tonight. Oli said, look, they took good swings off of him. That's what it was. They thought his stuff was sharp. There's nothing sharp about the pitch to Christian Walker. If you take that pitch out of it, we can maybe have a different conversation, and I could buy it a little bit more. But when that is such a prominent pitch that sticks out in the minds of everybody that watched this game, you can't write it off. It still counts, even if it was unlike every other pitch he threw all night, which you'd have to go back and look and see if. But it just doesn't matter. That happened, and it's a rough one, and it's reflective of the way that he performed. They took good swings against him in the other at-bats. That's fine. I can't let the Christian Walker one go. And that was the one that was kind of downplayed post-game, which is probably what is Oli Marmol supposed to do? I'll play devil's advocate. That's fine. Is he supposed to, and answer this. This isn't even hypothetical, Cardinals fans. I know that I got I'm on the microphone here saying what I'm saying, but now I'm going to flip the table a little bit. You tell me, what do you think you want to hear from Oli Marmol there as it pertains to the Matz outing tonight? What would be, now I'm going to ask you for is a homework assignment, because you can't just say, Steven Matz sucks and should quit baseball. Like, let's be real here. If you have a constructive criticism of what should have been said there from Oli to the Christian Walker at bat regarding Steven Matz, or about the game in general, what would you have liked to have heard him say, acknowledging that on some level it is important. You're not just going to go hang your guy out to dry. Steven Matz is still their guy. He's had some solid numbers before tonight. This was a bad one. What would you have liked the response to have been? I would say, look, that pitch to Walker can't happen. And I don't think that's throwing him under the bus. I would say you kill yourself with walks. Like if I was asked, What do you make of the Steven Matz outing tonight? I say, look, I thought his stuff was actually pretty sharp, but there are things that he did that cannot happen and still find success. Can't walk multiple guys in an inning leading up to a power hitter like Christian Walker, where you give him a pitch that is just wrong pitch, wrong location. That's going to burn you every time in this league. That's what you can say about that at bat, in my opinion. You can still say the part about I thought his stuff was actually sharp. I know the line score didn't indicate it, but I think, and again, what's the priority? If the priority is Steven Matz and having the backs of the guys in the clubhouse, then I'm good with that. I can live with that, but I still think that leaves you open to some interpretation from the public of like, are they okay with the way things are going? The fans are not okay with it. Is this Cardinal team, like I'm invested as a fan, I'm thinking like a fan. I'm invested. Are they invested like I'm invested? And the answer to that, by the way, having been behind the scenes on these things, is of course they are. Of course they're invested, but does it matter? Does a disconnect to the fan base matter to the extent that those sorts of things should be addressed in the postgame so that you can at least hear the manager of the team going, yeah, I saw what you guys saw too, and it didn't look good. I understand protecting players, but I also think there's an intellectual honesty about it when, and again, maybe Oli hadn't gone back to exactly see the pitch. He doesn't want to think about the pitch to Christian Walker, and it's just not, it's not as important in a game that didn't end 4-1. It ended 14-1. So maybe that's part of the answer as well. I like to talk through this as this is stream of consciousness. I'm talking through my own thoughts about this and almost contradicting myself at times because I think, first of all, when you do a solo show, you almost have to. Otherwise, how are you going to fill the time? But I also think it's a fair way to sort of analyze and go, all right, I can see the other side. I can see why Oli might have done this or that. But I do. On this one, I come down on the side of the fence of there could have been a little bit more criticism of some of the main tenets of baseball and just quality pitching, which is you can't walk guys. You can't give away free passes and then make mistakes in the zone to power hitters later on in that same inning. That's going to get you every time. So that's where it is from a pitching perspective. Cardinals fans, let me know. I'm sure you're going to be happy to sound off. If you haven't checked out entirely, this is close to 40 minutes into the episode. So let me know if you checked out or if you're still with me here. Because this one's rough, man. The timing of it matters, and it's rough. It's rough timing because they had a chance to sort of build on something after last night. But they had every element of this team. I guess I don't have anything negative to say about the defense, really. But the offense didn't show up, and the starting pitching didn't show up. And then really, you can't say much about the bullpen. It was just Zack Thompson, who I think has been struggling. And in defense of Zack Thompson, he's not got a regular role. He started as a starter, and now they don't know what the hell to do with him. I think at one point he went 10 days without pitching before getting a look, I think earlier in this homestand it was. And then pitches again tonight, but just nothing in the way of results. But we can talk about the offense too. It's getting to the point where I don't really know the answer when it comes to Jordan Walker. Sending him down might be the solution. Because I don't know. If you keep just bashing your head against a brick wall and hoping for something different to happen other than getting a headache, I don't know if that's the wisest path forward anymore. He's got a sub 500 OPS. Gorman was 2 for 4. That's great to see. That's something. I mean, I think one of them was a little bit of a bleeder, but 2 for 4. He did strike out once. Arenado had a hit. We told you the Contreras homer. Donnie 1 for 4. Burleson off the bench had a hit. Also reached base via walk. So he was on baseball times. Yeah, maybe Burleson's got to play, but I also think you take a step back when he's in left field compared to defensively what you might be able to do with a different alignment. We know Siani's not supposed to be a big offensive force. Brandon Crawford took a couple of at-bats tonight. He's not giving you anything. I don't know if there's anything to be done about that or not. What's the urgency? I mean, how serious are the Cardinals about trying to make this thing happen? And do you blow some stuff up just for the sake of blowing stuff up? And I get it. Well, those are guys' livelihoods and whatever. Yeah, it's a business. You're graded on performance too. So I'm okay with doing some crazy stuff. I'll feel bad about the guys if there's somebody that gets sent down or gets cut or whatever. But, like, it's got to be a performance at this point. 2024, I thought it was going to be more important, more urgent. And it's not to say that they're not trying to win. I think there can be nuance to these conversations. But if you see the things that you're seeing right now, I think there has to be a reaction at some point from up top. And quite frankly, I know I've been hard on Oli Marmol throughout this episode because I just couldn't hear him talk about the Matz outing and say, oh, it was actually pretty good. It's like, I don't know, man. That might play a little bit differently if the team is 5 games above 500 and you're talking in the middle of June or July. But it just didn't play that well tonight. And so I had thoughts on it and I shared them. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I've been wrong before. I'll be wrong again. And I'm okay with that. This stuff isn't life or death. But I do feel like I got to be intellectually honest about what I'm saying. And don't be disingenuous when I come on here. My honest, earnest reaction was, Ollie, come on, man. Don't do this to me. don't make me come out and go, Cardinals fans, you might have a point with this one. You're hard on him all the time. And I think most of the time it's off base. I respect you guys. You're going to have your opinion. The comments are going to say, this guy doesn't know what he's talking about to say that we're wrong about Ollie. How could he possibly say that we're usually wrong about him on a night like tonight? I get it. Say what you're going to say. I got to have thick skin just like the manager of the team is going to have because he knows there are comments out there that are made. He's got a job to do, and he can't let that distract him from what he needs to be doing, managing the team. I kind of went on a tangent there, but what I was getting to was that 2024 was supposed to be more urgency, more important, need to win now, need to win to rectify what happened last year and take the steps to make that happen. Now, nobody would claim that this Cardinal team in the offseason went so far as to say they're all in on 2024 or bust. No, they very much did the opposite of that. They left an escape hatch. They left an opening to parachute out of this thing and to reorganize and to reduce payroll for 2025. All of that is baked into the current roster and payroll construction. It just is. When you sign 2 guys to 1-year deals to fill out the pitching staff, and you've got Goldschmidt on an expiring deal, you don't extend him, which is turning out to be the right choice as of so far. And if you don't bring back any of those guys, Arenado's going to be, he'll get to handpick his destination of where they trade him to, but he will be gone. And that's a way you cut $80 million. And then you look at anybody else that's getting paid that you might be able to trade. I don't know that you can even get somebody to take the Matz contract for the final year of that deal. I don't know that you can get anybody to take Michaelis's money. You may not want to. You will still need some guys to fill out the rotation for Heimblum's 77-win Cardinals in 2025. But there will certainly be moves that are made in this roster for 2024. While they did make moves to try and improve it, it was a half measure because there's an escape hatch to where they didn't want to say, hey, we believe enough in this group to spend on long-term contracts for filling the voids in the rotation, which maybe would have opened you up to a different level of starter. Again, Lynn and Gibson haven't been the problem, but you get my point. We don't feel compelled to say, hey, you know what could really make this team great? If the starting center fielder of preference has a surgery and maybe isn't going to be recovered yet, they maybe couldn't have anticipated that. But I know that other people were saying, hey, once you found out Tommy Edman had this surgery, is he going to be back by spring? And why are we just believing that that's going to be the case? It certainly obviously has not been the case. They had to force Victor Scott into the situation. He had a great spring. He earned the opportunity. But that being said, the numbers have been the numbers, and that's why he got sent down. He just really was not in a spot to be able to contribute offensively. So I said sign Cody Bellinger. Go try and do something. Now, again, Cody Bellinger's not off to a great start. So all the things that we can say, you have to be willing to face the repercussions as a fan, as a member of the media for the stuff that you say. And don't expect that people are just going to forget about it. Like, if I said they should have gone and gotten Cody Bellinger and Cody Bellinger sucks this year, then I have to also acknowledge, oh, okay, maybe it was kind of smart for a team that's leaving an escape hatch to be able to bow out of an $185 million payroll for next year and reduce that sucker to $100 million. Then, adding these long-term types of contracts, which, of course, guys like Bellinger and guys like Jordan Montgomery, who we'll see tomorrow at Busch, they didn't end up signing long-term deals. They had to settle for shorter contracts with the way that the market played out. But the Cardinals weren't invested in any of that type of late market situation because escape hatch. They're not trying to load up 2025 payroll any more than they have to because there's a chance that if this year goes bad, I think they blow it up. And it's not that they're going to be, bad and rebuilding for years and years and years. they're going to have a lineup next year that's like compelling and names you know for the most part, a couple prospects mixed in, but it's not going to be, they're not going to pay anybody to join the mix, and they're going to pay some of them to leave, I feel like, if this year doesn't go well. But for that reason, as I mentioned, this is very much Brenden-Schaeffer style podcasting, because I had a point that I wanted to make. 10 minutes later, I still haven't gotten to it. But I've said some stuff in the in-between that I think was valuable and I wanted to get to, too. But what I was going to say is, although I've been hard on Oli Marmol tonight, I actually don't need to hear another word from him to explain the why the season's going wrong for the Cardinals and what's going badly for the Cardinals. I don't need to hear it from Oli. I don't need to hear it from Paul Goldschmidt. I need to hear it from John Mozeliak. He's the only person, honestly, that I need to hear kind of face the music if this thing continues to go off the rails. He's the person who built it, and he's the person that's preached patience. And so if you're a Cardinal fan, and this has been my take all along, it's Mo's team that he built. If you want to think that Oli is not the manager for the job, that's fine. I've seen characteristics behind the scene that make me believe that he is. And if this team had a 750 OPS instead of a 630 OPS, Oli Marmol looks like a genius. That's just the nature of the beast. He doesn't get to step into the batter's box. I still maintain those beliefs. However, the guy who did build the team and has asked for patience and did it all of 2023, asked for your patience, and then the deadline comes and he says, well, I mean, obviously the season's been over for a while, so we had to sell, which was the right move to sell at the time, but it was just disingenuous because it was patient, be patient. We got a good team, until that was just not a plausible thing that a sane person could say anymore. And once that was evident, then they sold at the deadline, which again was the right move. And then the next iteration of this was, well, we're going to get 3 starters in the offseason. You get those 3 starters, which to his credit, he said he was going to do it. Tried to kind of walk it back at one point when I think he realized that might be a bit of a difficult task to accomplish. Found a way to do it technically. Got 3 starters. Paid $11 million plus to all of them. So the team did invest, and they did do what they said they were going to do. But at a certain point, it is incumbent upon those moves to be good moves. That's John Mozeliak's job. It's not just to spend the money, it's to spend the money well. We'll see. I think Lynn was probably a pretty good signing. I like what you're getting from Gibson, and Sonny Gray has been obviously fantastic. But you don't have to stop there. If you sense there could be other holes with the team. And I don't know that anybody really sensed the lineup was going to be troublesome to this degree, and there are still people who say, the lineup's going to come around. I talked with Charlie Marlowe earlier today. We did low-hanging fruit. You should check it out on his YouTube channel, or you can find it on the B-Schaeff Daily podcast feed on Spotify, the latest episode 14 of Low-Hanging Fruit. Charlie in that episode insisted that he's still more worried about the starting pitching than he would be the offense coming around. And I think, well, that was before Steven Matz pitched tonight, but I still said, look, man, the offense is the thing that's supposed to be great about this team, and it's been worse than the pitching, at least before you gave up 14 to the Diamondbacks. Now, you might rank similarly in offensive categories as you do pitching. I'd have to go and look to see, but either way, it's not really the narrative that you want to be spinning at this point. But ultimately, whether I would have been able, or the average fan would have been able to pick out and anticipate the particulars of what the problems with the Cardinals might be this year back in October, November, December, is not really of material interest. What is of interest is if John Mozeliak can find those weaknesses and fortify them and make sure the team is better. That's all that matters. So I would be curious to hear from Mo, and we're toward the end of a homestand, so it'll probably be another couple of weeks yet. Maybe the Cardinals will have turned things around by then. But I'll be curious to hear, and he'll probably do some radio appearances and some different things in the interim. But is patience still going to be the preaching line? Because it was patience last year until, like I said, it would have been insane to continue saying that this team was good in 2023. So they sold, and then you said the thing you said about the 3 starters, and then there was never really that moment of like, hey, so like that was a disaster of a season. How do we reflect upon it and move forward? Didn't get any real chance to ask about that because there was no end-of-season press conference, which is, again, maybe that's something that fans don't care about, and it's just the media going, yeah, kind of lame to have your worst season in 20 years or whatever, and then decide, no, we don't need to talk about it at the end because, well, we don't have any moves for next year to announce yet. We don't know what our coaching staff is going to be, which is just a disingenuous way to pretend that that's what that press conference is about, where it's not for everybody else. They want a chance to ask you questions about what happened during the season. So I feel like that was a misstep on the Cardinals' part. I wonder what John Mozeliak will be saying if this trend continues. And again, I think I feel comfortable asking these questions out loud and saying what I'm saying because I've been rather positive about the team, believing that they're going to be able to turn things around. I don't think they're the 27th best offense in baseball, but I have my skepticism that they're going to be a top 10 offense the way I thought they would have been to begin the season. And you may be out there saying, look, they were 19th in runs scored last year. I had reason to believe that, okay, that could shift because nobody that was actually going to be on this team was playing for the last month. September was a complete wash. Everybody was hitting the IL at various times. Everybody was sort of mailing it in. You knew what it was. That's a bump enough right there to the scoring to get them into the middle of the pack instead of 19th. And then guys like Goldie and Arenado should bounce back. And you might say, well, why would they have bounced back? They're older than they were, and they were already declining on age. Okay, fair enough. But nobody should have believed that Gorman would fall off the table and be so much worse. If anything, at 23, he should have gotten better and should still have a better 2024 than he did last year when he had an 800 OPS. Jordan Walker, second year, learns a little bit about the big leagues as a rookie, holds his own, should be better. It's like the swing is broken right now. So, like, that's just an example of a couple of guys that should have gotten better because you had young emerging players. Mason Wynn hits 150 or whatever it is last year, comes in this year, now he's hitting much better. Those are the types of things that should have happened basically throughout and up and down this lineup. And we haven't seen it to this point. It's 24 games, so it's not over, but it's not a good spot to be in as the calendar keeps getting chewed up a little bit and you start to settle into your role in the NL Central of where you're going to fit into this puzzle. How does it turn around? It's collectively got to happen offensively. Walker's got a 490 OPS. It can't be that. It was 787 last year. Be 787 on your OPS, Jordan Walker. Nolan Gorman, have an 800 OPS like you did last year. Paul Goldschmidt, even if you're just a 780 OPS, that might be enough. I mean, it's a step in the right direction. Arenado's down at 728. He's not hitting for power. He just isn't. I don't know. Maybe that comes around. We've seen it. Paul Goldschmidt is MVP season had a really sluggish start as of April 23rd. So there's a lot of room for it to turn around for certain guys. But when it's more than half the lineup is struggling right now, Lars Nootbaar's OPS is down to 707. I think Lars Nootbaar is an awesome player. The numbers have to prove that over the course of the season, or the Cardinals won't be very good. It just is what it is. They're not consistent enough. They're taking the approaches. That's all well and good. They will have to come up with some results. I feel so ranty tonight, but it's like, I don't know what else to say. You thought, all right, maybe they're going to throw you a bone. Last night happens. They win 5-3, walk-off home run. They snap out of this funk. They could not have more definitively not snapped out of the funk than what they did on Tuesday. 14-1 means something. I can't come away from that game going, well, the starter, I really thought he competed well. I just don't think Cardinals fans have time for it either anymore. So, I don't know. I ranted for 50 minutes. Was it too harsh? Let me know what you think in the comments. Was it not harsh enough? Let me know what you think in the comments. I am curious for the perception of it. I just think you got to be real with a game like this. It's one game in the same way that Monday's game was one game. But we came on here Monday and said, look, that's pretty exciting. It's pretty good to see the Cardinals finally get one like that. Maybe it's a sign of things to come. Well, when that comes crashing to a halt the next day, I think it would be disingenuous for me not to come on here and go, what the hell? So that's what I did. I came on here and said, what the hell? Analyzed it the best I could. Fair, unfair, or otherwise, I'll leave that to you to decide. But I'm just mic dropping this thing. I'm out of here. We'll plug one more time. These episodes that go close to an hour, lots of advertisements. You can get rid of all the advertisements and support me if you like my stuff and want to help me out by supporting my channel and my podcast and all that. You can go ad-free. The link will be in the description to this video. Give it a look if you don't mind listening on Spotify. It could be useful to you as well. You don't have to. And look, I know people skip through some of the ads or whatever they do. Everybody can win if that's something that you're interested in. So I'll leave the link in the description. That's going to do it, though, for this edition of the show. Appreciate you, as always, for listening. Shoot me a DM on Twitter at b-schaefer12 as well if you've got something that I didn't cover that you wanted me to. I'm always as available as I can be on DMs on Twitter. I check them pretty regularly. So hit me up and let me know what you think. Give me some feedback for the podcast while you're at it. That's going to do it for this edition of the show. Appreciate you guys so much as always, and we'll talk to you next time on B-Schaeff Daily. Peace.